everyone was just going to riot, just going mad, like chucking things, chucking bottles.
Breaking into stuff, breaking into shop. It was madness.
Yeah, it was good though.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah. Do what we want.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, showing the police we can do what we want, and now we have.
So do you reckon it will go on tonight?
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, when CCTV footage emerged of the riots in England in 2011, many people were shocked to see the extent of the involvement of girl gangs.
In fact, more young women than ever are being drawn into gang life, according to the UK's Centre for Social Justice. It says the post-riot measures didn't work and describes gang culture in Britain as toxic.
Well, joining us to talk about that is Tracy Miller, a former gang member who now works as a youth mentor, and Nadine Woodley, who's written a play about a girl gang in South London. Morning both. Thanks very much. And you both know quite a lot about this subject. Tracy, particularly you, because back in the day you were very much a central part, weren't you, of a gang?
Yeah, I grew up very wayward. I grew up in a household where I felt oppressed, and looking back now, I was ungrateful. I didn't appreciate what my mum did for me. Raising children are hard, and now I'm a mother. I know it firsthand. My perceptions of life is warped. So, I just felt like I had no one to talk to. I had a stepdad that was, how can I put this? He used to flash. He never physically ever touched me, but he used to show himself as a paedophile, technically. So I was scared in my own home, and basically I was too scared to tell anyone, so I took my anger to the streets.
And you did some pretty bad things, you would say now, would you?
Yeah, I've done some stuff. I'll talk about what I've been convicted for, so...
Go on then.
I've stabbed someone.
Who? Someone you knew?
No, I didn't know them. I had an argument at home. I was just very wound up. I think I asked him the time, didn't like the way he responded, so I stabbed him.
A gang is a relatively durable, dominantly street-based group of young people who see themselves as a discernible group to engage in a range of criminal activity and violence. They identify or lay claim over territory, have some form of identifying structural features, and are in conflict with other similar gangs. Although girls have always had a role within gangs, it has been suggested that girls have joined gangs at a much faster rate in the past 15 years, and their roles have become more violent in the past 20. Batchelor points out that female gang members are still a rarity. Their male counterparts commit 80% of all gang-related crime. 6% of 10 to 19-year-olds of both genders in the UK report they are in a gang.
They have low self-esteem, to gain increased status, to gain power, the need for support, the need for affection, to gain a sense of belonging.
You use them. Really? And what would I use them for? So you don't have to be alone? So you can bully someone? You're just acting like you protect them? When really all you're doing is making sure that they end up in your pussy, prison, or fucking dead? Then I'll die. Not such a bad thing. But for them, what about them? Well, they actually think that you give a fuck about them. They think that they need you. It's pathetic.
There are girly girls who dress very provocatively, wear lots of bling and makeup, and are expected to sleep with any and every gang member, although their ambition is to be chosen by the leaders of the pack. This way they are protected from gang rape and they get free weed and trainers. But once the gang has boarded them sexually, they are labelled as whores and kicked out. Most end up addicted to crack, selling sex on the streets.
However, there are some girls that do hold a power position in male gangs. But just like in the business world, the female leaders of gangs have to work twice as hard as the males in order to prove their worth. The girls often change their appearance to be more masculine in order to get respect, and they suffer significant physical abuse to prove they are hard enough to be in a leadership role. This role is explained by the founder of the Little Miss Role project.
For these girls, being regarded as one of the boys is all important. They don't usually sleep with the boys, but they pimp for them, being paid to bring girls to them. There's not an ounce of sisterhood or compassion.
One girl explains how she strove to be equal to the boys.
I could be even tougher, more savage than them, because I had to prove myself. I got into every level of violence. There wasn't nothing a boy could do that I wouldn't match. I didn't care what I did. As I saw it, everyone judged me as bad, so I'd be bad. By doing that, I got what felt like respect. although I can see now how badly the boys treated me sometimes.
Susan Batchelor states that it's important not to overemphasize girls' violence. They have often experienced high levels of abuse of all kinds. To believe that they have no value except for their sexuality. The women's movement has not reached their consciousness.
How old was you when your mum died?
Lost her.
I was 14. I saw my dad beat the fuck out of that woman, day in and day out. She was pathetic. Not once did she swing back. Not once. The only way you'll survive is to become like them. Otherwise, you'll end up like our mothers.
Practitioners from services working with young women stated typical offences committed by young women were holding illegal goods, for example, illegal cash, drugs and weapons, assaulting other young people, setting up other young people to be attacked.
There are opposing theories explaining how young women are sentenced. One is the chivalry thesis by Pollock, who states that the criminal justice system are more lenient towards women due to chivalrous attitudes of men towards women. The idealization of women as wives and mothers means the criminal justice system cannot imagine women behaving criminally. Therefore, women receive lighter sentences. One, on the other hand, the double deviancy theory by Hydenson, considers women offenders to be doubly deviant, having broken the law and fundamental norms and values which govern sex role behaviour. The criminal justice system is harsher to non-conforming women who do not abide by constructed, typically patriarchal norms of female behaviour. To bring these theories together, we consider Worrell's idea of the existence of a gender contract, who states that women who buy into the gender contract are treated with chivalry, and that can neutralise the consequences of law-breaking behaviour, and they can compensate for their unfemininity by presenting themselves as passive, fragile and domesticated.
Take your time, bitch. Come and do this thing. You got no choice anyway.
The suggestion is that a problem's getting worse at the moment.
It's always been there with girls in gangs. Obviously now, since the riots, it's come out as though it's getting worse. But I find it's a problem that's always been.
Violent youth crime generates significant public and media attention, particularly gang-related crimes. It is argued that when girls are involved in violence, either as instigators or perpetrators, they receive disproportionate coverage in comparison to their male counterparts. These are some of the gang-related stories or crimes in the last 10 years. The story of the two teenage girls who bound 71-year-old Lali Lily's mouth, pushing her false teeth down her throat before throwing her into a canal. The 15-year-old girl who filmed West Yorkshire man Gavin Waterhouse being beaten to death by two boys. And the gang of teenage girls who were believed to have posted a liquid-based bomb into the home of Charlotte Anderson after arguing with her over a love interest. There is a distinct lack of public knowledge about female gang culture, which is talked about by Jennifer Blake, who used to be in a gang.
The way girls are portrayed in the media is not very real. They are shown as a loud group of girls, but the girls are also the victims. Gangs are the in thing, and if you're not part of something, you're nothing. You might see them making noises on the street, but behind closed doors, they're sometimes suicidal.
Implications, relevance for social work practice and the courts. Social workers could adopt a person in situation perspective in regards to preparing pre-sentence reports. They could use cognitive behavioural approaches to help address potential negative automatic thoughts that contribute to offending behaviour. Social workers could also apply more motivational interviewing with female young offenders, and they could also focus more on care planning that is strength focused and helps young people to prioritise their futures. Courts could also implement more rehabilitative options for young offenders as opposed to custodial sentences to tackle the underlying cause of offending behaviour. They could also take a more holistic approach to sentencing, for example, matching sentencing options to the psychosocial needs of female young offenders, and they could also try to seek to resolve more matters at the youth court.
Raising awareness, and I think that type of intervention is very, very important. Because one, you're telling people what is out there, you're showing these young girls and also the boys as well, what is taking place for young people today.
Side of girls being involved in gangs that is focusing on how you identify those young women, what support you can offer to them is actually credible and that they will access, because that's one of the key things. As we said before, a lot of young women don't report this either to parents, friends, or certainly not to professionals, and we're attempting to change our services to make them more responsive and more credible to young women.
I think we're interested in people more than, taking them to the authority. First of all, we will talk with them, we will find out about them, we will support them, and we will help them in any way they feel that they need our support. And then we'll move on from there.
What we're also doing is working a lot with local schools to enable them to put in place systems that allow them to, first of all, prevent young women becoming involved, but then also to know what to do if they believe young women are involved. One such service is called our Wise Up project, and be bold enough and brave enough to say we can work with these young women rather than to put them in the too hard to do box.
I think kind of highlighting it, as I say, traditionally we associate gangs with young males, and there's been a lack of focus on females' involvement with gangs. I think that in the last year or two, for the first time, acknowledging that females are involved in many different ways and that they've been neglected for too long.
How do you stop them becoming part of that kind of spiral downwards, as it were? How do you stop it, Tracy? What would you be?
Well, first of all, I'll call to parents, because a lot of it, like my journey in particular, was because my basic fundamentals at home weren't correct. And when we're mentoring and we're speaking to a lot of these youths, it is, oh, my home life was completely wrong. So parents, if you're going to have these children, raise them, don't drag them up. Know your child. You know when your child's going off the rails because you know them, you raised them.
Now, I've worked as a creative youth support worker for the last 10 years, so I've seen it from a school perspective, a youth club perspective, community centres, youth offending teams. I've spoken to people from NSPCC, Childline, they're getting calls all the time, but unfortunately there's not been a lot of government statistics to say that girls are involved in gangs unless it's associated with young males. But there are girls that are perpetrators of gangs themselves.
Most young people don't even realise they've joined a gang, gathered a gang. It's the way other people perceive them, the way the police think about them, or maybe rival gangs, and they just kind of drift into a gang. It's not like a conscious, they don't wake up one day and say, right, I'm going to join a gang.
Nadine, again to you, just really quickly, there's no easy answer to this, but, Tracy talks about talking to people. What would you say?
Well, for me, it's about identifying issues. Each young person has a different case. It could be their parents. The thing that I found is a lot of young people are suffering from low self-esteem. So if you're suffering from low self-esteem, how do you talk to someone? How do you say, no, I don't want to be involved in that? So you've got low self-esteem, learning difficulties, not being able to fit into peer groups at school. There's loads of issues. And the thing is with girls is there's an emotional perspective. So we feel jealous, we feel insecure, our menstrual cycle, all these things affect the way that we respond to other people. And these are things that need to be addressed. More life skills in schools, I believe.